Welcome back to the 2-in-1. Today I'm taking a look at the Cincinnati Bengals and kind of doing a fun video and going over whether or not they're contenders or pretenders. But before getting into that topic, just a quick question for those of you viewing. Comment down below who will lead the Bengals in receiving yards this year. Do you think it'll be rookie Jamar Chase, sophomore T. Higgins, or you could make the argument Tyler Boyd, the current best receiver on the Bengals team in some people's argument? Who will lead in the receiving yards, or someone else? Auden Tate, Thaddeus Moss, whoever you think it's going to be, comment down below. But getting straight into it, just a side note, disclaimer to make it clear, contender means Super Bowl contender. I mean, can they win a Super Bowl? Can I see them be a Super Bowl team? Just because they might be a playoff team, can I seriously see them win a Super Bowl is what I mean by contender. And pretender is obviously not winning a Super Bowl. But getting straight into it, looking at what the Bengals have this year, obviously Joe Burrow going into a sophomore season and bouncing off an injury, that is probably going to be the biggest determinant in whether or how far this Bengals team can go this year. And I don't think Joe Burrow is going to hold them back, but I do have my concerns just with the offensive line. I do think it improved. Jonah Williams, Riley Rife, I like that tackle duo. They drafted 3 offensive linemen in the draft. Yes, it was in the day 2 and day 3 picks, but they got a guard in the second round. His name's Jackson Carman. Even if he could develop in time, maybe halfway through the season, become a starter, this offensive line could turn out well. But as of today, I do still think it's slightly a project. It won't be half as bad as it was last year. Obviously, with Joe Burrow going out with the injury, that is the exact thing the Bengals don't want to happen. I don't see that happening again, and I do think it's improved compared to last year, but I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's spotless, and I do still think it needs some time, but I do think it'll get there. But right away, I do think Joe Burrow and this Bengals team will struggle just because of Joe Burrow bouncing off the injury, just because the offensive line not having the exact chemistry. I could see the first few weeks being rough. Receiving core, I got to tip my hat to it. I do think, I'm saying a lot in time, but in time it will be one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. Right now, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Auden Tate. I don't want to say Thaddeus Moss. He's probably not even going to be the starter. Right now, you got Drew Sample at the starter, but still, I do think in time this could be one of the most lethal receiving rooms, assuming Joe Burrow develops well, he becomes a top quarterback. Jamar Chase, that's going to be, the biggest risk just because he's a rookie. He still has bust potential. Do I think he'll be a bust? No, but that potential is still there, and therefore right now, today, I can't say they're a top receiving core just because it's all so new. T. Higgins only going to be a sophomore. Tyler Boyd, like I said, you can make the argument he's the best receiver on the receiver. He's the best receiver in this receiving room today, but as of right now, it's up for debate. Just with so many of these young guys, I don't think they're at the top of the league just yet. I made a video a while back on the top 5 receiving groups in the NFL. I didn't include them, but they were an honorable mention at number 6 or 7, whichever it was. So I do think in time we'll get there. For today, it's held back. Joe Mixon, pure talent, raw skill. Joe Mixon is up there with anyone in the NFL. Is he Derrick Henry? No, but you know what I mean? He's up there in top running backs in the NFL. He should be a top 10 running back. However, things just happen. He gets injured or just something on the field, he's not playing. He's never consistent when it comes to playing football games, and that has held him back. But hopefully with the new face of the franchise, Joe Burrow, giving them some spirit, we could see Joe Mixon play most of his games. Not to say, the quarterbacks determine Joe Mixon's health, but I just think having a passing game that the Bengals could finally rely on compared to what they've had over the past few years, we could see the running game get the perfect amount of usage. Another thing in offense, Zach Taylor, I guess that's overall, not just offense, but Zach Taylor, the head coach, I do have my concerns with him. This is kind of a prove-it year for Zach Taylor. Bengals, it's a good and bad thing at the same time. One way or another, you're going to find your coach of the future, whether Zach Taylor proves he's the guy or you fire him and you find your next guy. One way or the other, I do think Zach Taylor is on the hot seat and won't be here any longer as a Bengal. On the defense, I'm a fan of Trey Hendrickson being signed, but I did not like them losing Carl Lawson again. Trey Hendrickson, what was he, like third or fourth in sacks this year? Might have been tied for third. I think he had like 12.5 sacks. I think first was TJ Watt, second was Aaron Donald. And Trey Hendrickson could have been tied with Aaron Donald. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I want to say Hendrickson had 12.5 or 13.5 sacks, either second or the third most in the league. Clearly the Cat's got talent, but he did that on a Saints defense that's one of the best defenses in the league. Davenport, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis. Now he's not with that, strong front four that used to be. Not to knock the other guys on this Bengals front four or front 7, but we know it's not what the Saints roster was last year, and therefore I do think he will take a step back now that he's kind of this number 1 guy that's, I don't want to say alone, but is alone when you compare him to what he had at the Saints. Looking at the secondary, we know how good Jesse Bates is. A lot of people have him as the #1 safety in the league. I think it's up for debate, but I don't have a problem with him being ranked #1. Him and Von Bell's pretty good. You got Trey Waynes, you got Mike Hilton. My only issue is I don't like that they don't have a lockdown #1 corner. I mean, I know every team can't have one. Not every team can have a Jalen Ramsey, Jair Alexander, but I just don't like that they don't have a lockdown corner. Even a guy like Pat Pete, who's not what he was, he's still a guy that you can rely on to be #1 corner on the team. I feel like the Bengals are lacking that. No discredit to Trey Waynes or Mike Hilton, but I just see them at this point in their careers each being #2 corners, and I don't think they have a #1. Of course, you have Jesse Bates and Von Bell to help make up for that, but if you know what I mean, the corner position I just think could be a little stronger. So overall, this Bengals team has their pros and cons. Pros, Joe Burrow is probably going to go to that next level. Pro, in time, are going to have one of the best receiving corps in the league. Pro, healthy Joe Mixon could be a top 8 running back. Pro, you're going to figure out your coach one way or another. Con, offensive line is going to be a project. Con, front 4, front 7 is definitely not the strongest. Con, secondary has its strong suits, but it also has its weak points. Again, there's a balance here. Another con, the division. Got to play the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens. To me, Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens are a 2-man race for the division, and I don't want to discredit the Bengals and Steelers, but that's just how I see it. In the Steelers, do I think the Bengals are at this point in time can pass the Steelers? Sure, they can, but I know Joe Burrow's going to probably pass Big Ben, I'll give you that, but that Steelers defense is still going to be very, very hard to just, beat out of nowhere. Between TJ Watt, Devin Bush, Cameron Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, arguably the #1 safety in the league. You got Joe Hayden. That's going to be a tough defense to just beat and surpass out of nowhere. Do I think it can happen? Yes, but that's just, again, it's a tough division overall. AFC North, you can make the argument it's the hardest division in the NFL. To me, it's the second toughest, but you can make the argument it's the toughest. So there are a couple things against the Bengals. As far as it goes for me, I don't think the Bengals are contenders as far as 2021. Like I said, you heard me say time and time again, in time they'll do this, in time they'll have that, in time this will work, in time they'll have chemistry here. In time, in 1 to 2 off seasons, I like this Bengals team to make the next step up, to make a Super Bowl run possibly, to make at least a deep playoff run, to make a run at the division, to make a playoff appearance at the bare minimum. This year, could they sneak in at a wild card if something happens in the AFC and they get in at 10-7 and 9-8? Of course, but I don't believe they are a Super Bowl contender. Again, to make it clear, like I said at the beginning of the video, a contender versus pretender. Contender, I'm saying Super Bowl contender. Could they contend for a playoff spot and being in the hunt? Sure. But contending for the Super Bowl, the Bengals are not ready to take on the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Browns, the Bills, the Titans. I just don't see it happening. In time, when this receiving room finally develops, Jamar Chase does become the next best thing, as he was expected to be as a rookie. He is the next Justin Jefferson. Tyler Boyd continues to be an amazing slot receiver. T. Higgins takes an even further jump. Joe Mixon is more healthy. Offensive line becomes more sturdy. Joe Burrow gets more comfortable in the pocket, gets more familiar with the NFL, gets better reps. Defense, you find one more corner in free agency. You develop an extra pass rusher in the draft. In 1 more, maybe 2 more off seasons, this team can be contender. But as far as the 2021 season goes, I got to call them pretender. I hate the word pretender because it sounds completely negative, as in pretender. They have 0 chance. They're going to go below 500. They're going to have a top 5 draft pick. It's very, it's a very big negative connotation. But to me, they are just not a contender, and therefore the other option was pretender. I do think they will be right around 7 to 9 wins. That's nothing to brag about. But I do think they'll have an improved year. I do think Zach Taylor will probably get fired just because he's been given the chance. I don't know if it's the right move just because he's in the AFC North, and you have, everyone would agree, the worst roster in the AFC North can be the Bengals. And even if it was the Steelers underneath the Bengals, no one expects the Bengals to come out and win the AFC North. So if no one expects that, why do you expect your coach to pull off a miracle? And then if he doesn't, you fire him. That's a debate for another video. But to me, Bengals are not a contender this year. 1 to 2 more off seasons, adding 1 extra X-Factor player, developing 1 extra guy. This team will be ready, I believe. But as of right now today, they are not. But I do want to hear from you guys. Do you agree with my take that in time we could see a very bright future for the Bengals, but 2021 it's just too fast of a turnaround to expect them to go out and be this next best thing? It's not happening just yet for me. But like I said, do you agree or disagree? Comment down below. And referring back to the question today, who do I think will lead the Bengals in receiving yards this year? Personally, it's hard for me to bet on the rookie Jamar Chase just because the receiving room is stacked. You know, if it was just Jamar Chase and there was like a bunch of other third string scrubs on that team, you know, it was like Jamar Chase and like the Lions receiving room, not to knock the Lions, but, you know, Tyler Williams, Rashad Perryman, Jamar Chase would shine amongst the three. But that being said, I do think I will bet on Jamar Chase strictly for the fact that him and Joe Burrow have chemistry from college. If that wasn't a factor, I don't think I'd bet on that, but I just think them being good friends, playing in college together, having success in college together, Joe Burrow's always going to treat Jamar as his number one target. I could be wrong, but that's my bet. You guys tell me what you think. As always, and of course, thank you for watching. 2-minute warning.